You're using rosemary oil wrong. Yeah, I said it. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how you can customize your rosemary oil to make sure that it works for you. So if you've tried it before and you thought it was actually terrible, it made my hair fall out, it didn't do what it said it was going to do, it's probably because you were using it wrong. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can use it for whatever hair type you have. So we are going to be customizing this rosemary oil routine based on your scalp type. Unfortunately, not everything works for everyone, but sometimes you can find a lot of products that can work for multiple people if they use it in the way that is right for their hair type or their scalp type. So because rosemary oil goes on your scalp, I'm going to show you how it can work for your specific scalp type. So think about your own scalp type. Do you have a sensitive scalp? Do you have an oily scalp? Do you have a dry scalp? Or maybe it's oily and sensitive and oily and dry. Listen to all these and then you can figure out how to customize rosemary oil for your own routine. So let's start with oily scalp. To be honest, in my opinion, I think people with oily scalps have the best scalp type because while it is very annoying to wash your hair and then 2 days later your hair is oily and it's flat and it's annoying, usually that natural sebum coats your hair so much to the point that you barely get any breakage. And because there's so much oil, even if you have curly hair, there's enough for it to run down all the way to the end of your hair shaft. So you probably have hair that grows faster, meaning you retain length faster than the average person because your hair is always coated in oil. So good for you guys, okay? But because you have an oily scalp, you might be thinking, I already have an oily scalp. Why would I put more oil on my scalp? Now, here's the thing. First of all, you don't want to leave the oil in your hair. You want to use the oil on your wash day or the day you wash your hair in a very, very tiny amount. And by this way, you need to get the rosemary oil, put a small amount on your fingertips, and then just rub that into your scalp. And sometimes your oiliness might be caused by a dry scalp and thus you have the overproduction of oil. So if you put a little bit of oil on your scalp, it could actually reduce the amount of oil that your scalp naturally produces because it's already moisturized, or let me say the moisture has been sealed in by the oil. Rosemary oil is one of those oils that can actually help balance oil production. So yes, it may seem counterintuitive, but it works. Now, if you're thinking, listen, I hear you, but I don't want to put oil on my scalp. How can I still find a way to use rosemary oil on my scalp? You can put a couple drops, like 2 to 3 drops, in your shampoo on your last lather, meaning when your hair is already clean, your scalp is available and ready to absorb what you put on it. On your last lather, whether you wash your hair 2 or 3 times, the last time, put a few drops of rosemary oil in your shampoo, mix it in your palms, don't lather it, just mix it, put it in your scalp, lather that in, and then let it sit for like 2 minutes and then rinse it out and you're done. You've used rosemary oil on your scalp and you can still get those amazing benefits that everyone who puts it on their scalp and leaves it on their scalp gets. And now if you're thinking, okay, I actually am willing to put rosemary oil on my scalp, even though I have an oily scalp, what should I use? First of all, you should find the lightest oil you can find. You're not the kind of person who's going to use castor oil or even olive oil. That is too heavy for your scalp because your scalp is already oily. You want to go for something like a camellia oil, jojoba oil, one of those very thin oils that you just need to add like 2 to maybe 5 drops of rosemary oil to, and then get a small amount, less than 1 dropper full, put it all over your scalp, and then make sure you do a scalp massage because more than anyone else, you will need this scalp massage because you're most likely putting the least amount of oil on your scalp. And while the scalp massage does help stimulate hair growth on your scalp, it's also going to help evenly distribute that oil all over your scalp so that you don't put too much, but you still get maximum benefits. No matter how tempted you get though, essential oils are the lightest oils out of all of them. Do not put them directly on your scalp because you will get adverse effects. You may not see them today, you could see them months later, and then you'll be blaming some amazing product that did nothing to your hair. You'll be like, I got this new shampoo. This Kerastase shampoo is making my hair fall out. No, it's the rosemary oil, the pure rosemary essential oil you've been putting on your scalp for months. that's why your hair is falling out. The second scalp type is my scalp type, which is a dry scalp routine. So you guys probably never have an oily scalp. If anything, you probably have a little bit of dandruff that's just due to dry, flaky skin, and you just want to douse your scalp in oil. You're like, I need to put so much oil in my hair, and my hair just absorbs the oil, so I'm gonna put so much oil on my scalp to make sure it stays hydrated. You are probably causing inflammation. You are causing damage to your follicles because you are clogging your follicles with too much oil, because you think you are the opposite of the oily type. Because your scalp is so dry, you think you have to drown your scalp in oil. No, you do not. You still only need a small amount of oil on your scalp. So if you're not sure if your scalp is dry, here's how you know. If you go maybe 1 week without washing your hair and your hair doesn't feel the least bit limp, dry, it's not shiny, you can't see any oil. If you touch your scalp and you look at your fingers, there's no hint of oil at all. You get dandruff really quickly, and not the type that's like sticky and flaky, the type that's just like snow, okay? You scratch and it's snowing, and sometimes it feels like a little tight. And honestly, just in the same way you can look at dry skin and think, oh, my skin is so dry, it's the same thing with your scalp. You can tell when your scalp is just dry. So for you, you can use heavier oils. Now, you don't want to use more oil. You're still using a similar amount of oil, but you're using a heavier oil that's going to coat your scalp nicely without clogging your follicles. And you can go for something that's more like an olive oil, an avocado oil, even castor oil, but castor oil is too thick for every single person. You want to dilute your castor oil with a lighter oil, and then you add a couple drops of that rosemary essential oil into that oil mix, and then you can do the scalp massage and apply it to your scalp exactly the same way as the oily people. You can get away with doing it more than once a week though. For oily people, I forgot to mention that, usually just once a week, either on your wash day, before you wash your hair, or right after you wash your hair, you can use it, and then that's enough. For people with dry scalps like me, you can go ahead and use the oil even 3 times a week, and it will still give you beneficial results as long as you are using the right amount. 1 to 1.5 dropperful is enough. Any more than that is just going to make your hair over oily, too sticky, and it can actually cause breakage and adverse effects. So that's why I like to say once a week is best for everyone, but you can go ahead and use it up to 3 times a week if you're using a very small amount. Another way you can ensure you're getting the best benefits out of your rosemary oil for all the hair types is to do a scalp massage every single night, regardless of if you put oil on your scalp or not, because if your scalp is well hydrated and you've put oil on your scalp at least once a week, that will be enough to facilitate a scalp massage, to just add a little extra stimulation to that area. And for us dry skin girlies, that stimulation can actually help prevent extra dryness as well. So that will work perfectly in collaboration with your rosemary oil. Now, for my sensitive scalp people, you could be sensitive and dry, or sensitive and oily at the same time, or just in general, you're not sure if it's oily or dry, you don't care, you just know you have a sensitive scalp and you want to try rosemary oil. For you, the first thing you need to do, even though I advise this for everyone, for you specifically, you should do a patch test. Use, whether it's an oil mix containing rosemary oil or the rosemary essential oil, you want to do a patch test either at the back of your head on a very small portion, or at the back of your arm somewhere where you can't really see it. Let it sit for like over 4 hours and see if you get any sort of irritation. If there's irritation, there's a high chance that you are allergic to it. So unfortunately, you are using rosemary wrong, because you should not be using it at all. There are so many other essential oils and other great oils and ingredients that could be beneficial for your scalp, and you're just going to have to find one of those. But if you don't react, then you can proceed and use it in the same way the other two use it, except you may be wanting to use a lighter dose. So if you're making your own rosemary oil and the recipe calls for 10 drops of rosemary oil, you want to use perhaps 3 drops, because essential oils are very potent, and just because you're using a lower dose than other people doesn't mean you still can't get beneficial results. You just get adverse effects if you use too much, and then it's going to override the good benefits you could possibly get from the rosemary oil. Another thing is, even if you didn't react to the patch test, but maybe a day or 2 later after you've used rosemary oil, you're feeling that your scalp is really itchy, it's turning a little bit red. Again, Unfortunately, not everything can work for everyone, and the wrong way to use it may just be using it at all. So just immediately stop using it and stop trying to find other ways for it to work, because there's so many other ingredients that work out there as well that work maybe differently but can give you the same or similar results as rosemary oil. So just do that. Another thing you can do if you want to reduce the potential of getting side effects is to mix it with oils that are more calming, even if they're essential oils or other oil mixes. So you want to use something like calendula oil and lavender, because these are nice and soothing to the scalp, and maybe even a little bit of tea tree. But because it is super potent and strong, again, you want to use a very, very light, mild dose. Now, something that should work across the board for all the types of hair that you should really take into consideration is that, especially with natural ingredients, they tend to work a lot slower than some of these other medical treatments that have been made specifically for hair growth and intended to work fast at reversing things like balding and shedding. And so you won't see results as fast as using something like a minoxidil. Like when you use minoxidil, in 2 weeks, you'd probably see a pretty quick result. But with rosemary oil, you want to use it consistently, and in about 6 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, you probably see like some noticeable results, but you're looking at 3 to 6 months of consistent use for you to see great results with minimal side effects, which is the benefits of using natural ingredients most of the time. Watch this video right here to see how I make my own rosemary oil. Hit my face right here to subscribe if you didn't in the beginning, so you get notifications every single time I post, and consider joining my membership, where you're going to get priority response to all your comments, early access to videos, and just other members only perks that might be interesting to you. Also hit the bell so you get notifications every single time I post, so you don't miss another video with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!